As every season or episode nowadays comes and goes, I like to do a little video on my channel of the top 10 most popular weapons being used in that current episode. This is great knowledge for pretty much every player in Destiny 2, whether you're a solo player, a new player, or a veteran. This is just a little reminder of basically some of the best guns in the game that every player is using. These weapons are simply the most used because they are arguably the best weapons to be using in the current meta. So if you don't have any of these guns, it's a great heads up to start actively trying to get them, or if you're not using them, it's a good idea to maybe start using them. As always, all of this information is gathered from DestinyTracker.com, one of the best third-party websites for weapon popularity, and plenty of other information about Destiny 2. So shout out to Destiny Tracker. Starting the list off with weapon number 10, we have the Bitter/Sweet. Now this is a brand new arc heavy grenade launcher, and it is coming up as one of the best GLs in the game to be using, with a great gold roll being Envious Arsenal and Baton switch, and also being arc. This is definitely the new best in slot arc heavy GL. Previously, if we did need some sort of arc heavy weapon, most of us would have resorted to the Wendigo. However, the Bitter/Sweet definitely replaces this one as the best arc heavy grenade launcher in the game right now to be using. With Envious Arsenal just being basically a better reconstruction, it makes it very, very effective to deal massive boss DPS damage with. And obviously the Wendigo doesn't roll with Bait and Switch, the best DPS perk. This just pretty much trumps it as the new best GL. Like I said, this weapon is new and it is coming out with this episode Revenant, so pretty much any source of activity that comes with this season, you can have a chance at getting this gold roll, so keep an eye out for it. Moving over into weapon number 9, we have the Indebted Kindness. Everyone already knows about the Indebted Kindness. This was the first of its kind in the rocket-assisted sidearm, and this one comes from the Warlord's Ruin dungeon, but I'm sure everyone by now definitely has an Indebted Kindness. We also got given a great gold roll from the gunsmith just a couple weeks ago, so if you haven't picked that one up, definitely go and buy it, and it just makes this weapon very useful. This is the only arc rocket-assisted sidearm, making it one of the best. Not to mention, it is great to suit with other arc weapons, like the Bitter/Sweet, if you're using any arc mods. You know, pairing these two together just makes it even better. So go ahead and grab an Indebted Kindness from the gunsmith if you haven't already. The gold roll, in my opinion, is definitely led from gold and Vault Shot, but as long as you have Vault Shot on this gun, it really doesn't matter what you have in the first column. Enlightened Action is great, Impulse Amplifier is great, Beacon Rounds is great. They're all great as long as it's paired with the Vault Shot in the second column. Moving on to weapon number 8, we have the Call. Now again, the Call is another rocket-assisted sidearm, but this one is Strand. And again, very similar to the Indebted Kindness, there isn't much to say about this one. Everyone knows about rocket-assisted sidearms. They are simply some of the best weapons to be using in the game, and there is no argument as to why these aren't in the top 10 most popular weapons to be using. The Call comes from the Pale Hearts. You can go ahead and go to the Ghost there in the Lost City, pick them up for some engrams, and hopefully get it crafted as soon as you possibly can. Although I'm sure everyone already has the Call crafted. Now, if you aren't using the Call, you should definitely reconsider and definitely start using it. Now the Call has plenty of perks to make this one a gold roll, so it's really up to personal preference as what you like to run. For me personally, I really like running Demolitionist and Golden Tricorn, but there's plenty of other great perks out there like Desperate Measures, Subsistence, Lead from Gold, you've got Vorpal, you've got Slice, Multi-Kill Clip, Hatchling. The Call has some great perks, and this is simply why it's a little bit better in my opinion than the Indebted Kindness, but again, it really comes down to what surge mods you're using, whether it's Arc or Strand. Moving over into weapon number 7, we have the Outbreak Perfected, our first exotic on this list. Now there's no brainer as to why the Outbreak Perfected isn't on this list. It is definitely one of the best exotics in the game right now, and with the new crafting perks on it, rewind rounds make this weapon even better than it was before. Now the main reason that I'm thinking as to why this weapon is in the top 10 most popular is because Grandmaster Nightfalls have been out now for a couple weeks, and this is definitely one of the best weapons to be using in a Grandmaster Nightfall. With the Artifact mod also offering unstoppable pulse rifles, it makes it a no-brainer as to why you wouldn't want to use this weapon in a Grandmaster Nightfall. If multiple people on the same fire team are also using this gun, it feels like the enemies just get shredded in multiple seconds. So if you still haven't made the effort to get the Outbreak Perfected crafted and unlocked with rewind rounds, you should definitely do so as soon as you possibly can. Moving over into weapon number 6, we have the Vantage Point. Now the Vantage Point is again a brand new weapon coming in with episode Revenant, and this is a very solid arc primary pulse rifle. With the gold roll, in my opinion, being eddy current and jolting feedback, it makes this pulse rifle perfect to use with any sort of arc subclass. Now again, this weapon is from this season or this episode, so if you do want to grab one, go ahead and do any mission from this episode and you should have a chance at getting this weapon as a drop. Moving over into weapon number 5, we have yet another rocket assisted sidearm. We have the Aberrant Action, arguably the most popular and technically the best weapon out of all the rocket assisted sidearms. This one has a gold roll of kill clip and also incandescent, making it one of the best solar guns in the entire game. Now, the Aberrant Action actually came from last season in episode Echoes, so if you still haven't got one of these crafted, go ahead and go back to the helm, finish off last episode's story mission, and you can then focus these weapons into red borders. Again, there isn't too much to say about rocket-assisted sidearms. They are simply just some of the best guns in the game, and you should definitely be using them. Moving over into weapon number 4, we have the VS Velocity Baton, which is a brand new special GL that comes from the Vesper's Host dungeon. Now, this grenade launcher is definitely a specialty and one of the best weapons in the game right now, and personally I am still chasing the absolute gold roll. One of the best things about this aerial denial frame grenade launcher is the fact that it can roll with attrition orbs, making this weapon print out orbs of power like there is no tomorrow. You can spread out all the projectiles over the battlefield, hit multiple targets, and print out orbs with every single kill. Pairing this with something like Demolitionist in the first column as well, it allows you to get your grenade energy back just as quick. Pairing this again with this season's artifact mod that allows bosses to be weakened on GL damage, this weapon is seriously one weapon that you should be using this season. Unfortunately, to this day, I have done plenty of Vesper's Host clears, and I still have not got one to drop with attrition orbs. So, unfortunately for me, I'm going to be still keeping inside of the Vesper's Host until I can get my absolute gold roll. Moving over into the top 3 most popular weapons of Act 2 in Revenant episode, in at number 3, we have the Graviton Lance. This is our second exotic on this list, and the Graviton Lance is definitely one of the best exotics in the entire game. With its exotic perk Cosmology, every kill that you get with this weapon causes the enemy to explode in massive void damage, and then any enemies that explode from this void damage will then also send out more projectiles that go and seek out enemies and deal more damage. This weapon can cause a massive chain reaction of explosions by killing enemies after enemies, and then if you pair this something like volatile rounds, this weapon is just incredible and one of the funnest exotics in the entire game to use. I think the Graviton Lance has definitely been in the top 10 most popular used weapons for however many seasons now. It's hard to track. This weapon is seriously one exotic that every single player should have. If you're using any sort of void build, the Graviton Lance will work with it. This is just an incredible exotic, and if you haven't used it yet, I seriously recommend you give it a go. But if you already know about the Graviton Lance, there isn't much more for me to say. It's just incredible. Moving over into weapon number 2, we have the VS Chill Inhibitor, which again comes from the Vesper's Host raid, and is now arguably one of the best, if not the best, heavy grenade launcher to be using in the game right now. With the pretty much gold roll being handed out to us from the Gunsmith, being Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch, this weapon is definitely one of the best GLs to be using against any boss in the game. With Envious Arsenal just being a better reconstruction, allowing you to reload your gun quicker than reconstruction does, this weapon just dumps bosses and deals massive spike damage incredibly quick. With the Gunsmith selling a pretty much gold roll, I think it's like a 3 out of 5. It technically doesn't have the best masterwork or the best magazine. However, it is still very, very good, and for minimal effort and not banging your head against a wall to try and get that perfect 5 out of 5 gold roll, it is definitely worth picking up and using. So shout out to Bungie for giving us a pretty much good gold roll. And moving on to weapon number 1, the most popular weapon in Act 2, we have the Lost Signal. Now, I'm sure there's no surprises here. The Lost Signal is definitely one of the best guns in the game right now, and it is definitely my most used weapon this season, and I've been having plenty of fun using it. With my recommended gold roll of crafting this weapon, I recommend auto-loading holster and Vorpal weapon. However, you can sub out Vorpal weapon for something like One for All. Either way, whatever you craft this weapon with, this weapon is incredibly useful to use. Everyone already knows about the Lost Signal. It's the #1 most used weapon for a reason. It's probably because everyone knows about it, everyone is using it, so there's not much for me to say here. But anyway, guys, that will wrap the video up there. There are the top 10 most popular weapons being used this season, and thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, comment down below, and let me know what your most favorite popular weapon is this season. But again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.